Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the DC Capstone Report. It's great to be back here talking about another Alabama football victory over the Tennessee Volunteers. This past weekend was a great weekend in Tuscaloosa. We hope that you came and had an opportunity to enjoy a great ball game. It was a great victory. Alabama ends up winning that game 34-20. Maybe didn't play great in the first half. We'll talk about that later and maybe turn the tide in the second half there. But just an overall great weekend. As always, Lance and I want to thank you for tuning in to the podcast. We couldn't do this without each and every week without your support. So we thank you for tuning in and sharing our podcast, liking our page, liking our page on Facebook and YouTube, following us, getting notifications. All those things that you do help us continue to do this each and every week. And we couldn't do it without Lance. Lance is the one who makes everything run there in the studio, producing this podcast each and every week. And his great sites, RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com. If you've not visited one of those sites, you need to go right now. And as soon as you finish listening to this podcast, go to those sites and look at the wonderful pictures, the game day photos that he has up there for the $1 Million Band, the cheerleaders, the elephant stomp, the football players. A great atmosphere there of lighting up the cigars after the game against Tennessee. So go there and check out Lance's other sites, RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com for some great Alabama football pictures. Well, today on the podcast, in the first segment, we're going to review the game against the Tennessee Volunteers. In our second segment, we're going to take a look at our players of the game. In our third and final segment, we're going to look at the bye week and what we can accomplish during this bye week before we go up against LSU in 2 weeks.
You're listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on the Martin Houston Show at Tide 100.9. You can listen live at Tide100.9.com.
Well, welcome back on the podcast. It's glad to have everyone back this week. Glad to be talking about another victory. Well, it wasn't a complete game, but I can say this about this Tennessee game. I believe the second half was the most complete half that we have played this entire year, both on both sides of the ball. But let's look back at the beginning of the game in the first half. I think let's talk about defense first. I think our defense really played a good game in this game. I think they were put in awkward positions at some point during the first half that we gave up the touchdown. They really took advantage of that, having the outside linebacker on their fast slot receiver. And they were able to get us in a position where he made a great catch and a great throw. It was the only thing that beat us there was the great catch and the great throw. So that got us behind. But our offense put our defense in some bad positions there with some short fields, and the defense really rose to the occasion and held them to field goals. Had they have got touchdowns on all those times in the red zones in the first half, we wouldn't have been in a position to come back in the second half and play as hard as we did. But the defense held them to field goals instead of touchdowns, and we went into at the half there, 20-7. Alabama facing a 13-point deficit, the largest deficit that we faced at home since I think 1995 is one of the statistics I saw, and definitely the longest deficit we've faced that we come back and win since the national championship game against Georgia. Back when Tua came in the second half and won the game. So, it's an odd position you find yourself in a lot, but there was a lot of things that went bad in the first half offensively, I think. I don't think we came out with a great intensity. I think we looked emotionally tired, physically a little tired on offense. And I don't think we called a good game. I told you I've always been honest with you here. And I give credit where credit's due, but I give criticism when criticism's due. And I think our offensive coordinator was not in the game in the first half. He wasn't up to calling the plays. I think he had a scripted set of plays that he was going to try. And I think our tendencies showed out again. I think they knew when we were going to throw the ball. They knew when we were going to run the ball. And when you do that, the defense can have an advantage in that. So I think Tennessee's defense in the first half had an advantage over our offense. I think we were lucky to be just down 20-7 at halftime with an opportunity to come back. I think our defense played a good game, but I don't in the first half. had some mistakes, but not near as many mistakes I think that we had on the offense. And I go back to coaching. I don't think the offensive coordinator had us in the position to make plays in the first half that he should have. I don't think he had adapted. I believe he continued with his script and he waited to the halftime to make some changes, and unfortunately he did, and we came out and did much better in the second half. But I think the turning point in this game happened when we came out in the second half and we hit those two big plays to open up the game. And that is a long run by Jace McClellan. I think we adjusted on first down and ran the play that we needed to run in order to get that long play. We did it. And then that opened up the play action passing. The second down, we still passed it on the second time we had the ball. But on that first down, we come out there and we pass the ball on a play action passing. So it was much different. It's much different in your mind instead of running short on one first down and throwing on second down. And that series, we ran the ball for a first down, and on first down, we hit a play action pass. They were ready to try to stop the run again, and instead of doing so, we hit them deep on a touchdown pass to Isaiah Bond. I think that was a huge turning point of momentum in the game. I think the next ensuing play was the kickoff, and that was a mistake on Tennessee's part. And that mistake on Tennessee's part put them behind the chains on the 4-yard line and put us in a better position to go on and continually keep the momentum in the game. I believe I give Tommy Reese credit. The offensive coordinator came out in the second half, called more plays, more toss sweeps, more counters, more off tackles. We called more running plays for the quarterback. All of that working together allowed the quarterback to loosen up the defense enough in the secondary to allow the quarterback to make some plays downfield with his arm as well. So I think overall in the second half our offense played much better. I think we blocked better. I still don't understand how our left tackle is getting beat when he has inside help. How is he getting beat to the outside? That still baffles me. So we've got a lot of things we can clean up there and work on, and I don't think it's athleticism. I don't think he's weaker than the other opponents. I think he's just not using techniques that are available to him. If we've got help inside, there's no way we should be getting beat outside. But eventually we're going to get our quarterback hurt if we don't clean up that offensive line, left side of the line, at least the left tackle position. So the second half, I think, as it progressed offensively, we took advantage of Tennessee, what they did against us offensively, and we were able to move the ball and running the ball and passing the ball in a more consistent basis in the second half. The second half on defense, Coach Saban goes in at halftime. He says in his press conference afterwards that he asked the question, hey, do y'all want to win a championship? Or are you in it to win this thing? Or what is your aspirations? What do you want to do? Because if you're going to keep playing like you're playing in the first half, you can throw that out the window. You're not going to do it. You have a choice to make. And I think, I credit Kevin Steele. He made some adjustments on the defense at halftime that put them in a position to make some huge defensive plays. Our outside linebackers, rushers got to the quarterback. Our defensive linemen plugged the holes. Our defensive line overall with Jaheim Otis, Tim Smith, Tim Keenan, Justin Aborgby, all of them played really well on the defensive line to plug the holes, stop the number one rushing offense in the SEC, held them way below their average, held their leading rusher well below his average. So we did a really good job of doing that. And that allowed our defensive backs to play well in the second half, even losing Terrion Arnold. Trey Amos comes on and does a really good job of playing against those wideouts in the second half. You can't say the defense did anything wrong in the second half because we gave up 0 points. We held Tennessee to 0 points in the second half. And our offense comes out and scores, and then the defense gets a scoop and score on a great defensive play. And I think that is what broke the will of the Tennessee team. When that defensive Chris Braswell does that sweeping motion, he comes in, knocks the ball out, and then Jihad Campbell does a scoop and score. I think that broke the will of the Tennessee team. So I think in this game, what we didn't do against Arkansas, we won the game against Arkansas, but we didn't beat them. In this game, we not only won the game against Tennessee, but we beat them. We broke their will to play. We broke their will to come back. We stole the momentum from them, and I think it was the defense in the second half that set the tone with some punishing blows and continued play, and our offense with some more creative things in the offense, which I think we should have been doing all along, but really made the difference in this game. So overall, I'm excited about what we saw. I hope that we can use that second half to play a more complete game against LSU in 2 weeks. But the good thing is we've got some time off to make some changes, to make some adjustments, to hopefully help us down the road. Now, the one negative that I saw in this game, which we've got to get fixed, the one negative is fielding punts. I love Kool-Aid McKinstry, but in my opinion, he looks like he's scared to field the punts because he's afraid to make a mistake. We've got to use this off time to get somebody else in there to get them some, either Isaiah Bond, Kendrick Law, or Caleb Downs. Give those guys a shot at fielding punts, because if we don't, this field position that we're losing on not fielding these punts are going to hurt us down the road. That's one thing that we've got to get cleaned up during this bye week. Well, welcome back to the DC Capstone Report. Again, glad to have everybody tuning in with us. I want you to like our podcast and share it with all your friends. This week we couldn't do it without the great sponsors we have, freelancepictures.com and rolltidebama.com. And then our sponsor that allows us to bring this podcast to you each and every week is Karen Cottingham, Realtor with the Williams Group at Keller Williams. Now, she is in Tuscaloosa, but she can work statewide for all your real estate needs. You can contact Karen at 205-887-4008, or you can check out her listings at www.karen.thewilliamsgroupal.com. Again, that's Karen Cottingham, Realtor with the Williams Group right here in Tuscaloosa at Keller Williams. Contact Karen for all your real estate needs, 205-887-4008. Well, we're back here on the podcast for our second segment where we're going to review our players of the game. Let's start on offense. I have two offensive players of the game this week because I think these two players really did a great job not only in the first half, but in the second half of picking up their game and doing much better in the second half when they were put in position to make plays. Number one has to be our running back, number two, Jace McClellan. Jace did a great job in this game of continually running the ball. It was by far his most carries in a ball game this season. He had 27 carries for 115 yards and one touchdown. The one long run he had was 29 yards on that first play of the second half that set up that play action pass deep ball that Isaiah Bond caught for a touchdown. So what did we say last week? If your back is averaging more than 4 yards a carry, give him the ball. Give him the ball. And that's exactly what we did in the second half with Jace McClellan. We kept giving him the ball. He averaged 4.3 yards per carry on those 27 carries for 115 yards and a touchdown. He did a really great job in this game, really carried our offense. Him and Roydell Williams were the only backs that got in the game, so he got the bulk of that 138 yards that we had for the game. Now, the bulk of that was our workhorse, Jace McClellan, so he is one of my offensive players of the game. My other offensive player of the game has to be Jalen Milroe. I thought Jalen Milroe came out in the second half. He was not in any way deterred by the interception that he had in the first half or the fumble on the strip sack that had. None of those had deterred him to come back and really do a yeoman's job in the second half. He was 14 of 21 for 220 yards and 2 touchdowns with a good deep ball to Isaiah Bond, which went for 46 yards, and then another touchdown, I think, went to Jermaine Burton in this game. So really did a good job. I think handled running the ball really well. Still getting hit a lot from the left side, but he seems to be rolling him to the right. It's helped a little bit. Maybe our offensive coordinator will be able to put him in a position down the road to play better in the rollout game and not get him hurt. But I think our offensive player of the games, Jace McClellan and Jalen Milroe, they are the best ones on the offense in this particular game. Now, our defensive players of the game are 2 linebackers. I could have picked a lot. There was a lot of folks that had a lot of tackles, a lot of people at the middle that did a good job stopping that defensive. Stopping on the defense, that offensive juggernaut of a running attack that Tennessee had. They did a great job with that. But there were 2, I think, that jumped off the page when you looked at the play in the game. Number one has to be Deontay Lawson. I believe that everything runs on this defense through Deontay Lawson. He calls the plays. He's all over the field. He's everywhere, and he does such a good job. In this particular game, he had 12 tackles. 6 of them were solo tackles, and he had one pass defending where he broke up a pass with a tipped ball. Just did an excellent job. But he was sideline to sideline. He was stopping the rush. Tennessee couldn't get outside because he was out there stopping it. So he did a great job. He also did well in pass coverage as well. Our next one has to be Jihad Campbell. Jihad Campbell comes in, and he's been playing a lot, but this time he played the whole game in place of Tresman Marshall, who was injured. He has 10 total tackles. 6 of them were solo tackles. He had 1 tackle for loss, and he had the great scoop and score on that touchdown play when Chris Braswell stripped Joe Milton. Jihad Campbell was in place in the backfield to pick it up and scoop and score the ball all the way for a touchdown. So I thought the middle linebackers in this game, Deontay Lawson and Jihad Campbell, especially down a man with Tresman Marshall unable to go, they picked up their game. They played a great game, and they are my defensive players of the game. So my offensive players of the game are Jace McClellan and Jalen Milroe, and my defensive players of the game are Deontay Lawson and Jihad Campbell. Well, welcome back to the DC Capstone Report. We're here on the third and final segment, and that is we have a bye week. Usually we review the next opponent, but now we're going to talk about, since there is no opponent this Saturday, what can we do in these 2 weeks to help this Alabama team? Well, first and foremost, I think we need to do some self-scouting, and we need to look at our offense and see what our tendencies are. If we don't correct analytically the tendencies that we have and take a really good look at them in this off week, then we're going to have a problem down the road, because LSU, Kentucky, Auburn will all know our tendencies if we're not able to adjust out of it. So I've told you before, I think we have a tendency to throw the ball on second down more. 9 times out of 10, 90% of the time, we're throwing the ball on second down. And Tennessee knew that in this game, and Tennessee defended it well in the first half. We mixed it up a little in the second half, and I think that's what we've got to go. We've got to do some self-scouting on our offensive, and our offensive coordinator's got to be willing to make some changes, open up the playbook a little bit, and be more creative than he has been in the running game in order to get the players some help. Help Jalen Milroe, help the running backs be able to help you in this offense. Second on the offensive side of the ball is on the offensive line. We've got to come up with some scheme to help that tackle on the left side. He keeps getting beat. We've got to help him. If we don't have anybody else that's going to play the position, we're going to have to help him over there some way. So we got to have a scheme that helps him. How it helps him: running the ball, rolling out, running the ball to the right, rolling out to the right, not getting your quarterback killed in the pocket, screens, draws, all of that helps the left tackle if he can do those things. Slide someone out there. Give him a lot of help on the inside, but slide somebody out there to pick, chip, to push, to help him nick that outside rusher so that he can do that. So we need to do that on offense as well. The third thing that I think we need to do in this bye week is we're going to have to find, I believe, settle on someone to catch the punts. I believe the giving up the yardage that we're giving up on those punts aren't fielded. In this game we had several. And they're not fielded. We've got to have someone back there that's not scared, not afraid to make a mistake. Or we either got Kool-Aid McKinstry to play like he's not afraid to make a mistake. So, you got other options there to at least try Kendrick Law, Isaiah Bond, or Caleb Downs. They've all had some experience in fielding kicks and punts. So I would say that we're going to have to clean that up before we go in on the rest of the year, or it could come back to bite us. The fourth and final thing that we need to do in this bye week is we need, and it's above all else, we need to use this time wisely to rest, to heal up. It's been a long 8 games, and we need to rest and heal up. We're in a perfect position sitting at 7-1. If we win the remainder of our games and win the championship game, to get into the college football finals. And if we do get in the college football playoffs, if we're in those final 4 teams, we will have an opportunity to win the national championship. And everything that we wanted to play for is still before us. Let's use these 2 weeks wisely. Let's some downtime. Let's get healed up. Let's get rejuvenated mentally. Let's get rejuvenated physically and be ready to go out and play a great game against LSU at home. Having that game at home this year is great. Coming off a victory against Tennessee is great. We're not coming off a loss like we were last year, and we're not playing away. Two good things to look forward to as we prepare in this bye week. So I believe if we use it wisely, we'll take this week to look at ourselves, correct some things about ourselves. At the end of this week, we begin to look at LSU and go into next week in preparation, ready to play those LSU Tigers in 2 weeks. Well, that's all this week on the DC Capstone Report. You can tune in next week. We won't have a game to review, but we'll look at and preview the upcoming game against the LSU Tigers in a couple of weeks at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Well, for Lance Shores, this is DC, and we thank you for tuning in. I want to thank our sponsors, RollTideBama.com, FreelancePictures.com, and Karen Cottingham, Realtor, right here in Tuscaloosa at 205-887-4008. Again, that's all for the DC Capstone Report. Thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you back next week here. Listen to our podcast as we preview the game against LSU. Y'all have a great week and roll tide.